The community came together last night in Uvalde, Texas, for a vigil to honor the 21 victims fatally shot at an elementary school on Tuesday.
Temptations lose their power when thou art nigh. Oh, bless me now, my Savior.
Residents gathered to remember those who were killed when a lone gunman opened fire at Robb Elementary School. A pastor led prayers for hundreds of people in attendance, including Governor Greg Abbott and Senator Ted Cruz.
Flowers are being left outside the elementary school where an 18-year-old gunman fatally shot 19 students and 2 adults before he was shot and killed by law enforcement officers. 17 others were injured.
Family members have begun identifying some of the victims. They were all in the same 4th grade classroom. 2 4th grade teachers were both in their 40s, and the children identified so far are all either 9 or 10 years old.
Well, Ralph Salento is a professor of police science at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and former lieutenant commander of detectives for the New York Police Department. He joins us live now from New York City. Good morning. Why do you think certain gunmen make children their targets?
Well, it seems that, children are an easy target, so you have to really ask yourself about the true intent of the gunman. Like, he didn't walk into a police station and do it, right? He went into some place where there are innocent victims who have no way to defend themselves. Now, that could be one reason. The other reason is for maximum shock value, right? The killing of a child is going to be more press-worthy, if you will, whether or not we agree with it. The killing of a child is going to be more press-worthy than, let's say, killing of adults somewhere. So I think he's trying to make the biggest impact.
Yeah, gun laws seem to be the central focus of ways to diminish these mass shootings. Some argue that that has not solved the situation. In Chicago, here in Canada, we have stricter laws on guns that you can and cannot own. So what is a starting point for conversation, when it comes to gun laws?
Well, I think the idea is you just have to continue to talk about it. Now, the problem with gun laws is, this sounds like an old adage, but criminals don't follow gun laws. So certain people will argue that by passing gun laws, all you're doing is restricting decent citizens, where criminals are not going to listen to gun laws. However, it bears to be necessary in the conversation that in this particular case, in Texas, an 18-year-old kid can buy a long gun, which is what was used in the shooting, but not a handgun. So I think no matter how big of a Second Amendment supporter you are, no matter what side of the aisle you find yourself on politically, I think there is definitely room for discussion and debate about common sense restrictions, background checks, restricting purchases until maybe somebody's 21. I think even if you're a big supporter of gun rights, I think there's room in there to have an intelligent conversation about common sense gun laws.
Yeah, we've heard that call for common sense gun laws. Ralph, we know that an 18-year-old pulled the trigger in Texas. Another 18-year-old pulled the trigger at that supermarket in Buffalo. Do you think age is a factor when having a discussion about these mass shootings? You mentioned that age 21 could be, the starting point. But we know that it's kind of ironic when a kid can buy a gun and he's not able to drink yet.
I knew exactly where you were going, and that's a common argument. And quite frankly, I agree with you. So an 18-year-old boy can't buy a beer, but he could buy a long gun capable of holding multiple rounds in the magazine. I think if you're really going to pull back and look at this, I think a lot of things are involved. I think the year-long lockdown because of the terrible COVID, I think is involved. I think lack of therapeutic help in schools is a problem. I think the internet bullying is a problem. So if you're going to really solve this problem, you have to cast a wide net, a big net, because, forgive me for stating the obvious, but as you and I both know, you cannot legislate evil. And these people are clearly mentally, having mental problems. Normal, healthy, happy 18-year-old boys do not go in and shoot up schools or shoot up supermarkets. So I think parenting has a lot to do with it. I think a lot of parents are absentee parents, and then they clutch their pearls in fake outrage that their child could have done this, but only they know, or they enough parent to that child. So I think parenting is involved. I think the whole entire community is hurting from COVID lockdowns. I think the COVID money that was apportioned by the government was not spent properly. I think there's a gun law conversation that has to happen. So it's a big, big problem. There's many issues that caused it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a multifaceted issue, a complicated one. We will continue to follow this story, this tragedy. Ralph Salento, professor of police science at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts this morning. Take care.
Of course. Thank you.